Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be about to draft this beautiful three-part corset.
20 inches. I'm working with 20 inches length, alright? So the next thing I'm going to impute is my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. 1 inch for shoulder slope, alright? Then I'm going to mark my 7.5 here again. The next thing we are going to mark now is the nipple point or the bust point, which is at 10 inches. Then the next thing is the under bust, which is 13 inches. So you work with yours. I don't know what your nipple point or bust point is or what your under bust is. So whatever you have, you keep it. This is my neck width. Connect it to 1 inch down to create a shoulder slope or slant. Then my armhole, I'm going to divide my armhole into two, and I have 3.75 coming by 0.75 inches. I want to create my armhole. So this is what I have. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my impute my bust measurement. So the bust measurement I'm working with is 34, which is 8.5. I'm going to mark it here. Then the waist measurement I'm working with is 7 inches. I'm going to mark it here. Alright, so this is what I have. Now I'm going to connect it using a break point to connect it first. Now the next thing to mark is my dart line, my darting line. That's my nipple to nipple. I'm working with 4 inches. So I'm working 4 inches down from my bust point. I'm marking it down. So this is what I have now. I want to reduce my waist measurement to 6.5. Alright, the actual waist measurement I'm working with is 28 inches, but I want to snatch it a little, so I'm working with 26 inches. And when I divide it by 4, I have 6.5. Then I'm going to add extra 1.5 inches for my dart intake. So I'm going to mark it here. Then connect the bust measurement I marked here, which is 8.5, to the waist measurement or the full length of my top. So this is what I have. Now the next thing I'm going to mark now is my 1.5 inches on my waistline or on the full length of my top. So I marked 0.75 inches on both lines, these two sides. Then I'm going to connect it to my nipple points or my bust points, which is this line that is here. Alright, so this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to do now is on this center points of our top of our pattern, I'm going to mark half an inch, half an inch, half an inch up to my shoe, my neck area. That's like the start point of my top. You can start from up and mark down, or from down and mark up. So I'm going to mark a line. Alright, so this is what I have. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my under bust, the round of my under bust. So whatever you have, you impute it here. So round of my underbust is 29 inches. I'm going to divide it by 4. So whatever I have, I'm going to mark it on this line here. So I have 7.25, and I'm going to mark the remaining of what I have. So the remaining of what I have is roughly 1.25. So the 1.25, I'm going to divide it into 2. So whatever I have, I'm going to share it in between these two lines. In here now, at this my underbust, I'm going to share it. So what I have is 0.5 and 0.75. So the 0.5, I'm going to mark it at the center points, and the 0.75, I'm going to mark it at the side of the top. All right, then I'm going to connect it to my waistline, which is here. So I'm going to connect this to this particular place. All right, then the next thing I'm going to do now is, I forgot to put my bust dart earlier on, so I'm going to still do it now. So I'm putting the bust dart here. All right, that means I'm automatically going to close this bust dart. So I'm going to divide my whatever I have, the difference between my bust point to my under bust. So I have 3. I'm going to divide it into 2. Then from the center of it, I'm going to come out by half an inch. Then connect it to my armhole area. Then I'm going to use my curved rule to blend it into the dress, into the pattern. All right, so this is what we have. Now we're going to divide what we have left on the shoulder after marking our neck width. We're going to divide whatever we have into 2. So I'm going to place my tape back this way. So this is half of my shoulder. I'm going to connect it to my nipple points or my bust points. All right, so now what next do we do? From the shoulder line, we're going to mark where we want our top, where you want your cup to start from. All right, 6.5 to 7 inches is okay. So I'm working with 6.5. So this is where I want my cup to start from. So from that 6.5 now, which is here, this point here, I'm going to mark half an inch in, and I'm also going to mark half an inch on the other side of it. All right, so I marked half an inch here, half an inch here. Then I'm going to connect it to my bust points and my nipple points. This is to shape the over bust, so that whenever you wear your dress, you can be able to move around, jump up, and do whatever you want to do without exposing your boobs or your business. All right, now coming to under my chest line, I'm going to come down by half an inch. You can decide to work with 1 inches. The choice is yours. That is your cleavage depth, how deep you want your cleavage to be. If you want it to show you, is your choice. Then I'm going to pick up my curved pattern of my curved rule and make a curve this way. All right, then from this point now, I'm also going to curve it to this point. I'm going to use a curved rule. So now our cup is coming up little by little. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my pattern at this center point now, curve it in to this place. You understand? To give me the perfect cup here. So this is the center part of my cup. You can decide to curve this in before covering this particular one. All right, so this is it. Then I also do the same thing to this other part of the cup. All right, Now what we are going to work on is this area of our cup now. Okay, so now we're going to close, we are closing this bust dart. So I'm going to cut out this pattern, then show you what next we are going to work on. So this is what the pattern looks like. And I'm going to cut out this like that. There, here. Cut out this that. I've cut this out. This is the what we have at the center. Then I'm going to close this bust dart now. This way. Okay. So I've closed down the bust dart. Now we have some little space here. So what do? I'm going to take any piece of paper I have, place it under it. Use a tape. You can use any tape of your choice. Holding down the dart line there. Then this particular one. Then I'm going to use this to complete what I have here. Then I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so now for this other part of the cup, for us to achieve the other part of the cup, this is what we're going to do. From this armhole we have here, we're going to mark 1.5 inches in on our armhole line. Okay, so I've marked it here. So now I'm going to pick up my curve drill and draw my cup. So this is what it looks like. Then this one, I'm also going to curve in from here to here. Remember, from your 1/2 inch, you are removing this. So this is, I'm now going to label my cup. So this is the center front of my cup, and this is the side front of my cup. Now, if I should cut this out generally, it's going to give me a 2-piece corset cup. So if I want to make a 3-piece cup, this is what I'm going to do. From this center point, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches. Then on the sides, I'm going to mark 2 inches. From the side of the cup, I'm going to mark 2 inches. Then I'm going to use my curve to connect it together to get a 3-piece cup. Alright, so now I'm going to cut it out. So I'm making a 3-part cup of the corset. So this one can serve as my yoke, alright, but I'm not working with a corset with a yoke. I'm just making a top. So I'm going to cut this out. So this is the center front, this is the side front. If you want to make an invisible, you want your bones to be inside, don't want it to be showing, you can join these two with your tape and cut it out. Then I'm going to trim this out, or better still, I can fold it in this way. So now I'm going to cut my corset. Remember, it's a 3-part corset. So this is the upper part of it. I'm going to label it 1. I'm going to label this one 2 and this one 3. So I'll cut these ones out. Okay, so this is what our corset will look. Our front will be 3 inches longer than the back, alright? So because remember we folded in our bust that, so since we use 20 inches for our front piece, we'll be using 17 inches for the back piece of our corset. So this is where my 17 stops. I'm going to mark. So I'm going to still mark my shoulder line here, 1 inch for my shoulder slope, 3 inches for my neck width. Alright, this one now there is no zip. It's going to have loops at the back. Alright, so I'm going to mark 7.5. This is my chest line. So this is what I have for my chest line. So for my armhole, I'm going to divide it into 2 as usual. Then remember the front piece I came in by 0.75 inches. For this back piece, I'm going to be coming in by half an inch. So then my bust measurement, I'm going to put it here, 8.5, and I'm going to add extra half an inch to it. Okay, then I'm going to connect it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is put my waist measurement. The same waist measurement you're working with the front, please kindly put it for the back. Add 1.5 inches for your darts. Then I'm going to mark this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark my 4 inches. That is my nipple to nipple measurements. Now the dart is going to start 1 inch from the 1 inch down from our chest line. That is where our dart is starting from. So this is what I have, and I'm going to mark 0.75 inches on both sides of the dart leg. That is for my dart intake. And connect it to this point. To this point. Okay, so this is what we have. Now I'm going to drag my darts up to this point. That's my 4 inches line up to this point. Then I'm going to mark 0.25 inches on both sides to enable me close it up very well. So this is what I have. I'm going to cut it out. Then continue with the drafting. So this is what I have. Then I'm going to close up this my dart. The 0.25 inches I marked here is that half an inch I added to the bust line, that's to the chest line. That is to enable me close up my darts very well. So this is what I have. Or before closing up these darts, remember it's going to have the loops. I'm going to mark 0.75 inches on the center point. This is to this is to control the bulge that will come out at the back. Okay, and I'm going to trim this off too. This is just like the zip controlling when you're controlling the bulge at your zipper allowance area. So that's the same thing that I've applied there. So this is what I'm going to have. Okay, that is first. Then I'm going to mark 1 inch from my darts, the dart I've closed. I'm going to mark 1 inches. Then from the center point of this, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches. That is where how I want my opening to be. So I'm going to mark this to close it up. That means this side is going off. I'm not making use of this area. This is where my loops is going to be. Okay. Then I'm going to cut this out. This is the area I'm making use of. So I'm also going to close this. Okay, my tape has finished. Using this to hold this together. So this is my back. So I'm cutting this off. This is where the loops will be. That's this part is unwanted, and this is where my loops are going to be. So this is my back piece, and these ones are my front piece. So next we are going to go into cutting out of this on our fabric. That's the next thing we are going to do now.